Welcome to the Michigan Works Association 2020 Annual Conference. My name is Christine Klee. I'm the Communication Specialist with the Michigan Works Association. On behalf of the staff and the association and all our sponsors, we want to thank you for being part of this conference and this session titled Credential Engine, Mapping the Credential Landscape in Michigan. I would like to do a big shout out of thanks to Oakland County Michigan Works for sponsoring today's workshop session. Our sponsors help make this conference happen, and we're so thankful for their support. Along with our sponsors, our exhibitors have also given their time to be part of our conference, so please be sure to visit our exhibit booth after this session, and there's also another one at 12:15 today. Before we begin the session, just a few things I need to share with you. This session will have a Q&A, but we're going to wait until the end. If you'd like to, feel free to put your questions in the chat during the presentation, but we won't be addressing those until the end. We are really eager for your feedback, not only about this conference, but this session. So please do take a few moments to complete a short survey following this session. I've already posted the link in the chat area, but I'll post it again at the end of the session as well. Now I'd like to introduce our speakers for this session. The ever stylish Marcia Black-Watson, our Industry Engagement Division Administrator for the state of Michigan, and the brilliant Jeni Spaulding, Talent Information Systems Specialist for the state of Michigan.
Thank you, Christine, and good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. You know, we are in the home stretch of this conference, and I'm sure you all will agree with me. It's been a great conference. And I don't know about you, but given our new normal, I really didn't know exactly what to expect. So this has been really a great learning experience and networking experience. It's been so wonderful to see so many of my colleagues' names and pictures and comments in the chat. I want to applaud the Michigan Works Association for just doing a fantastic job of identifying this technology and allowing this conference to continue and not be canceled in spite of what we are going through right now. As Christine said, I want to remind you, click on the PowerPoint screen so that you have the very best view of our information. So I am Marcia Black-Watson. I am the division administrator responsible for industry engagement, and we focus on customized training through work-based learning, sector strategies, as well as apprenticeship expansion. And joining me today is the brilliant Jeni Spaulding, who is a talent information systems specialist with Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity, Employment and Training. We have other members who are not able to join us, are not presenting with us today, but they are members of our Credential Engine team. We have Nicole Kelly. She is Talent Information Systems Analyst who works full-time on Credential Engine. And we also have Renee Tober. She is the Executive Assistant in my division for Industry Engagement. And I just want to give a shout out to Christine Klee, who has been with the association for a few months now, but prior to, she worked at Leo and she was actually on the Credential Engine team. So I don't know if she had the opportunity to select which workshop that she moderated or supported, but if so, I'm glad she picked this presentation and workshop. But the Michigan Credential Engine effort is really a multi-office, multi-agency, multi-department, and multi-partner effort. And because you joined this presentation, we're going to count you as one of the partners already, but we do want you to hear really more about Credential Engine and how we are mapping credentials throughout the state of Michigan. Not only is my division involved, Jeni's office, Talent Information Systems, which is a part of the Operations Division of Labor and Economic Opportunity, Employment and Training, but we are also working with the Office of Performance and Reporting. We're working with the Department of Technology Management and Budget in a number of different ways, including labor market information and strategic initiatives. the Department of Education, particularly the Department of Office and Career Education, and many, many others at the state level to really approach this effort. Now, today's presentation, we want to cover the following items. Credential Engine, of course, who and what, who is it and what is it? Michigan's business case and strategy for Credential Engine in our state. A Michigan Credential Engine update. What have we been up to really for the last 2 years? Next steps, and then things to keep in mind. So what do you want to remember about the work that's coming forward? As Christine mentioned, as we go along in this presentation, we want you to note your questions in the chat, and we will have at the end a question and answer period. So Credential Engine, what is it? Who is it? We have been connected to Credential Engine for the last couple of years. And Credential Engine is a nationally recognized nonprofit organization. It was actually created just in 2017, so it's about 3 years old. It's very, very strongly supported by organizations such as the Lumina Foundation. I'm sure you've all heard of the Lumina Foundation, JP Morgan Chase, by Google, by Microsoft, and many, many other well-known organizations really support this effort. Credential Engine's mission is really fourfold. They want to create credential transparency, really are working to reveal what they call the Credential Marketplace, and we'll talk more about that. Increasing credential literacy, knowledge about those credentials that are available all across not only Michigan, but across the country. And then their mission includes empowering everyone to really make informed decisions about credentials and the value of those credentials. So really bringing credential transparency through technology, and that's what it's about. And we know that while this effort started 3 years ago, even what we are experiencing now, that technology, the focus on technology, it plays such a big role. So Credential Engine brings credential transparency through a set or a suite of web-based services that really for the first time creates a centralized, what they call credential registry, to provide update information about all credentials. It also provides a common description language, which enables credential comparability and for ease in research. And then it takes all of that and puts it on a platform to support not only their registry and what is called Credentialfinder, so you can look for those credentials and the information, but also for customized applications to search and retrieve information about the credentials. Now, Michigan is a state Credential Engine partner. And it was in 2018 that we competitively applied to be a state partner. And all through this week, I know you guys have heard many different terms that have been emphasized, but one of the terms that we've heard since Monday is demand-driven. So this is really a demand-driven approach because actually it was employers that told us about Credential Engine, but it was also employers that asked us to apply for the state partnership. We're in really good company. While we were in sort of the second cohort of state partners with Credential Engine, there are now 15 states and the city of Los Angeles, which some say, hey, they're a state too, but that have embarked on the journey of credential transparency along with Credential Engine. You can see on the map there We've got Alabama, we've got Kansas, Maine, Minnesota, Ohio, Colorado, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and many others. And right here in the Midwest with us, we've got Indiana. And Indiana was really the first state from day one that had a state partnership with Credential Engine. And they really serve as trailblazers for us other states that have come on. Now, Credential Engine, who and what are they? More information. Jeni, did I already cover this slide? I can't hear you.
Sorry, I had to get on the right side. But what they don't do, which is often a very—
Oh, thank you. So, thank you for reminding me. So, while I talked about a lot what Credential Engine does, did want to highlight really what Credential Engine does not do. And Credential Engine, really, they do not collect any personal identifiable information. They are not focused on particularly the credential holder. They don't provide information about the credential holder. What they also do not do is they do not issue the credentials. They collect information from those that either issue the credentials or provide the learning opportunity to earn the credentials. And the other thing that Credential Engine doesn't do is they don't really certify the value of the credential. That is really left up to the state partners. So let's talk about now the Credential Marketplace and just a little bit of information about what we mean by Credential Marketplace. So I want everybody to really use your chat because I want to see what you are coming into this session knowing about the Credential Marketplace. So first of all, there's many, many different types of credentials. There's variations of content, there's variations of quality, there's variation of value. But I want you to take a moment and in your chat, list the types of credentials that you are familiar with. So there's varying types. So I want you to use your chat, if you will, to list the types of credentials that you are familiar with. Here they're coming. Okay, we've got licensing, we've got teaching certificate. Oh, we've got all types of acronyms, CNA, LPN, CCP, lots of Microsoft. Yeah, industry recognized certifications. Yep, very good. So there are so many types, and Jeni and I have been we've had an opportunity to have our eyes wide open. Oh, Penny, thank you. We've got apprenticeships, associates, BS degrees, certs, doctoral, master's, licensure. Absolutely. Carrie, yes, ma'am. U.S. Department of Labor apprenticeships and associate's degrees. So we have learned so much about the different categories of credentials, apprenticeships, badges, certificates, certifications, degrees ranging from associates to PhDs, diplomas and high school equivalency, licenses, micro-credentials, military training. It's all in there. And Credential Engine actually commissioned a report that actually counts the number of credentials in the US. So who knows, or who can make a guess as to how many credentials have been confirmed across the US? Just take a guess, put it in the chat. How many credentials do you think we are aware of across the US. All right, we've got 6,000, we've got 20, 225, 200,000. We're getting closer. So actually, you guys are obviously going to be shocked. There have been 738,000 credentials that have been identified. And so certainly, if this may be of interest because you're in the session, to go out, you can Google counting US post-secondary and secondary credentials, counting US post-secondary and secondary credentials. And this report will come out. It was issued in September of 2019. And it actually talks about all the different types of credentials and what their prevalence is all across the nation. It's a very interesting report. So these credentials, this marketplace is really scattered with all of these different types of credentials. There has been no common language to describe or compare these credentials. Actually, there's been a misalignment between earning the credential and the training opportunity to the credential that lines up with the skills that employer needs. And there hasn't really been any mechanism that really shows how credentials can be stacked, how they formulate a career pathway, and how they are based on competencies. So that's what the marketplace has and does look like to the extent that it has not been changed by some of the state partners. So Credential Engine, what does it bring to bear? Credential Engine, through a credential registry and a credential finder that you'll hear more about, it provides the opportunity for you as a user to explore competencies, to explore learning outcomes. It provides up-to-date information about the value of that credential attainment, what it costs, and information about career pathways and how you connect various credentials around credential attainment. So Credential Engine has created an actual credential transparency description language. So what is that? And we call it CTDL for short. It's really a dictionary of sorts that provides a language that people in systems can use to understand the data that comes from different sources of credentials. Anyone can use it to share information about credentialing data. And we'll give you an example in just a couple minutes here. So the CTDL not only provides a common unified way of describing the information in Credential Engine, but it also opens up that language to be used on the web. So internet-based. And so this is really a powerful feature that makes it so much easier for students, for businesses, researchers, those that own systems that could use this type of information to both understand the credential, to compare the credential, and information from a variety of sources. So let's look at an example. So if you are searching for a program or credential now, you go out on the web and you Google, I think this one is information IT programs, you come upon a number of websites, as you see, and when you click in those websites, a lot of times there's a number of documents. They might be PDFs or whatever type of document. You got to search through and try to find information. And oftentimes I will tell you, I know this business and I go out and do these searches and I'm exhausted to find the information that I need oftentimes. And it's nothing against any of the websites. We have some wonderful websites, but how do we make this information very easy to find and readily available to the end users, readily available to students and others that are interested, to job seekers? So we would like to see this next example. For example, when you are really looking for a hotel, for example, this is a hotel in Washington, D.C. We are so used to utilizing Google, where common information about the hotels that maybe you have an opportunity to stay, a common format of how this information is all pulled together. And it's really easy. I think we now take it for granted, because I remember when we didn't have this, to compare hotels, the price, their availability, what amenities they have at each hotel. And it's in a common language, so that it's easy to compare, to the most part, apples to apples. We do not have that with credentials. And so Credential Engine attempts to take the same common way of comparison that we use for hotels and restaurants. And even now during the pandemic, I don't know about you guys, but I've always liked to do online shopping, but I really need therapy for the time that Amazon shows up at my door. It's pretty much every day. And so when you're shopping for items, there's such a comparison that you can make because of common language. Google is so cool about bringing in an item from all the different stores so that you can even see where you get the best price and who charges for shipping and who doesn't. So this is what Credential Engine aims to do. And we are so excited about it. So the registry, it captures, it links, it updates, it shares up-to-date information about credentials. It can be organized in a centralized place on the registry, and it's searchable by the finder, or a customized application can utilize this information. All this is made possible by that CTDL. Now, I want to give you an example of the expectation and where this is going. I want to give you an example, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jeni. But we recently, if you guys were on early, you heard us talking about all the grants that at the state of Michigan we have been applying for because of the CARES Act that's really supporting the COVID-19 pandemic and the need to really focus on workforce development and making sure that individuals are in a good place during the pandemic and coming out of the pandemic. So a grant that we recently applied for, I think it was back on August the 24th, was the Reimagined Workforce Preparation Grant Program. And this program, this grant opportunity, would make $20 million available of CARES Act funding for short-term education and training. And we really, really, really want this funding available for the state of Michigan. We have suffered budget cuts for some well-known programs like the Talent Fund because of COVID-19, and we would love to get this $20 million for short-term customized education and training coming from the Department of Education. And so I need everybody to join me in crossing their fingers, crossing their toes, and even their eyes, if you would, in hopes that we get this grant. We want to implement a program we're calling MyLeap, Michigan Learning and Advancement Program. So the grant solicitation, if you can believe it, it required information about all the credentials that are going to be developed with this funding or that will be delivered with the use of this funding. They want the information on the credentials. Now, this was in the solicitation to be publicly accessible through the use of linked open data formats that support full credential transparency. And it actually mentioned the use of that common transparency descriptor language, or CTDL. So fortunately, and I hope this helps, we were able to say, hey, we're in a state partnership with Credential Engine, and we can deliver that open source credential information. So I'll turn it over to Jeni, who will continue with examples.
So, hi everyone. Following Marcia's example, I wanted to illustrate what those training search looks like in Michigan. If we enter in a nursing assistant class in Michigan, a Google search as of today returned 9 million results. Now that is iterations of ads, different programs. It's not a clear-cut list. That doesn't exist. So if you look at our recent efforts, we attempt to do that through our Pathfinder website of connecting education and training wages. So in this example on the left with Google was the nursing assistant class. Again, you could wade through up to 9 million results. The other one with Pathfinder, then, when you search through everything that's listed there from our connected sources, we have 192 schools listed that offer the CNA programs within the state of Michigan. However, the authority of this truly lists and lies with the Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs, which approves programs, and they are listed, as you can tell, within PDFs by regions. And the reason then that this does not come up is because of the lack of use of that credential description language and the fact that they're embedded within PDFs. So just as an example between what Marcia described and where we're going to go, 9 million results on Google, 192 opportunities within Pathfinder, and in order to know how many are truly approved trainings within Michigan that would allow those completers to then test for the required nurse aid certificate, those are buried within 12 regions of PDF. Now, conversely, when you look at the Credential Registry Credentialfinder, the contrast is really illustrated well. So all of the data that's been submitted into their registry, they have a website called the Credential Finder, which is just an example. They don't want to focus on their product. They want to be able to illustrate how their database of this information can be portrayed to the public. And while we work to create our own within Michigan, this is truly the website, credentialfinder.org, that will and currently portrays everything listed on their website. So this beta website, you will see, I'm going to follow with the certified nurse aid example. You are allowed or given the opportunity to search by credential name, the organizations that offer those credentials. They also offer assessments or learning opportunities or competencies, as well as different filters by states or types of credentials. The information that's collected in the registry then allows this type of searching and filtering to provide this data. And as you can see here, one of our partners within LARA, the Bureau of Community and Health Systems, created an account and uploaded data regarding our Michigan certified nurse aid. There's a multitude of options and details that can be entered by organizations based on whether it's a degree or a license, etc. But what we've been able to assist them to list, you'll be able to see that our partners at LARA entered information about the credential, its renewal frequency, the type of credential, alternate names, who it's listed by, and then some of the details that we're really proud of as far as having assisted them to build out were really the testing assessments, which would be prometric, and they talk about their learning opportunities, costs, any financial aid. So this information is available, as well as other choices of details regarding credentials, and this is what our partners have listed. So again, very proud of the work that Nicole and we have all done with our state partners and their participation in helping with increased transparency regarding the state's role in authorization of training programs and licenses and certifications that are required to work in identified fields in our state.
So I want to tell you about sort of the business case that we made to Credential Engine when we applied for our state partnership, which will inform you sort of about the strategy that we are utilizing and what we have accomplished. I told you early on that we applied to become a Credential Engine partner about 2 years ago. And when we applied for this, again, we were asked by employers, they said, hey, do you know about Credential Engine? We need this for our state. Can you apply? And so when we did that, and Jeni, I'm getting a little bit of feedback. Can you mute your phone?
I sure can.
Thank you. We did so because we knew that this work would really inform, you know, a couple years ago, we were really talking about filling the skills gap. And we know that there's still, even now, I don't have the current number now that we've gone into the pandemic, but prior to the pandemic, we were looking at 545,000 jobs that would need to be filled, I believe, through 2024. And we knew that for an individual, a job seeker, a student, or maybe even an incumbent worker that was looking to advance their opportunities, for them to have knowledge about the learning opportunities and the credentials that were available to build out a career pathway, for them to have that knowledge would put us closer to addressing the particular skills gap. But now with Governor Whitmer's new goal for 60% of individuals to have a post-secondary credential by 2030, it even makes it more important for us to have this level of credential transparency than ever. And I think what this shows is that, you know, for those of you that operate in the government world, a lot of times work will lean itself towards the administration. This is appropriate regardless of who's in what office or what needs to be done. And this lends itself to making sure that individuals are aware of career pathways and that post-secondary credentials are attained. And we know that economic viability, a family's ability to provide, to have sustainable wages is tied to education and training. In order to attain those credentials that are in demand, and job seekers are aware of each of those credentials, they need to know which ones are available, how they meet the training needs of in-demand occupations. I think somebody had a reference to training and praying. We don't want to train and pray. We want to make sure that that training is connected with an opportunity for a good paying job and career. And then how you really get connected to those opportunities. So while there have been many benefits that we have seen by really creating credential transparency, we suggested 3 things. And this is what we have tried to stick to. It's really hard when you get into this work and you learn so much to not experience scope creep. But we have tried to stick to furthering the state's efforts around expanding registered apprenticeship in Michigan, enhancing the utilization of state of Michigan websites that are really focused on talent information, such as Pathfinder. And then I think we have the ultimate opportunity to better articulate and map career pathways in Michigan. So with apprenticeship is a credential within itself. And thank you for those who took that little quiz and responded to what kind of credentials there are. And many of you mentioned apprenticeship. But we know that we have an opportunity to identify really even more value to apprenticeships, because a lot of those long-term training programs or medium to long-term 2, 3, 4-year programs have credentials, even nationally recognized credentials that are embedded into the apprenticeship program before they even complete the apprenticeship and become a journey person. And we want to bring those embedded credentials to light and highlight those. It really helps individuals understand their career pathways and opportunities. And it really helps the workforce system that are working to support those apprenticeships understand when credentials are obtained. It really oftentimes is not just the apprenticeship completion certificate. Now, we have some really great information systems that we are utilizing at the state of Michigan. Jeni has mentioned the Career and Education Pathfinder. We work with Pure Michigan Talent Connect, the state's labor exchange. We have Michigan Training Connect, which is the eligible training provider list that a lot of us really rely on. But we know that there are some gaps in information in those systems, and not only gaps in information, we know that there could be a great benefit to have a common language that really aligns and integrates all of those systems. So we propose to pull data that we're collecting as a part of our project from the registry, the Credential Engine registry, to help inform our current public workforce information systems. So I know I've gotten the question, oh, so the Credential Engine registry and our participation is going to replace our systems? No, it's not. It is going to enhance those systems. We'll have more information about certificates and licenses and certifications and even apprenticeships that we will be able to then augment our information systems. And then finally, we believe that there is a great opportunity to make sure that job seekers and students have a better idea about what a career pathway looks like. And career pathways take all forms and shapes. They're in all sizes. They can be very complicated. But we believe that with more information about credentials, that we will have the opportunity, and this will really be an expansion of our work, to better articulate and to better document career pathways and even provide possible career pathway maps for those that would benefit. We know oftentimes that a student, a job seeker, they get lost along the way because they really don't have a clear map. I experienced that with my own daughter, who went to Michigan State, go green, go white, and she was a pre-med student. She thought she wanted to work in acute care, and while she did very well in her program, and she decided she didn't want to do that. So she graduated, and she didn't know what she was going to do. No career pathway. She thought she just had one trajectory to get to a successful career. And so, thank goodness, mom worked in workforce development. She's now a healthcare researcher working for a nonprofit in Ann Arbor. And she's involved in all types of research related to public health. So you can imagine how busy she is during the pandemic. But we need better articulated career pathways. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Jeni, who will talk about our strategy.
So these 3 bullets simplify a lot of work. But this is our threefold strategy. We will work to support our state governmental department partners in their transparency listing on the registry to include those licenses and certifications that they issue to our residents. We will work to identify the credential opportunities Marcia mentioned earlier that are often offered to apprentices within their registered apprenticeship program. And we will create and automate a process to assist our many partners in the creation of their account and the upload of available data that they already submit to state data systems. So these three little bullets, like I said, simplify a great amount of work that's being done on the back end. So if we look at those state government partners, illustrated earlier, Laura has been a huge partner, as is expected, as our largest licensing department within the state. We have many sections that handle different portions of licensing for different fields. And then the other ones that are listed here, we're in various stages of identification of the credentials that they offer to residents as compared to businesses, and really working with them to create the easiest method for them to get their information onto the credential registry. Through a federal grant, we were able to hire our dedicated staff, Nicole, that Marcia mentioned earlier. She really works with the outreach to those partners and provides the upload assistance, whether it's via a spreadsheet for larger amount of information or individually. She is responsible for working with our fellow departments. So that work will be ongoing. The registered apprenticeship that we mentioned, through Marcia's section and our apprenticeship team internally, we met with many of the apprenticeship sponsors. And when we renovated the registered apprenticeship related training instruction portion of the Michigan Training Connect, we not only met the federally required reduced reporting elements, we also saw the ability to implement some readiness and advancement of our credential registry project by asking those partners to identify within their apprenticeship, as a result of the section of training that they have within their apprenticeship, whether or not there's any additional credentials earned. In the past, we've only identified registered apprenticeships as the totality credential of a completion of a certificate of completion of an apprenticeship as issued by the Department of Labor. But we've also identified within those, such as this example, before that's happened, they also are able to receive a professional development certification and an interim teaching certificate. So that's going to help, again, with support of training funding for those longer term apprenticeships within our workforce system, but also it's going to start leading an opportunity to have that information be offered by our centralized registry as well. When we look at the data and our third strategy, we're looking at the training programs and credentials that are offered by our many partners and the many databases that we have access to at LEO. That includes data on programs offered by public and private community colleges and universities, the CTE programs offered at the high schools. We have our high school and high school equivalency providers throughout the state, our proprietary school section and the programs that they're authorized to offer in Michigan, the out-of-state post-secondary providers that are authorized with their programs, and then again, the apprenticeship-related technical instruction providers, data that's offered into our system. So because of our access to this information that they already submit, we've been working to create that automated system to help with the initial huge lift for these partners that might have hundreds, if not, low thousands of programs. That might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but it's much different for an agency that might offer 5 programs compared to a post-secondary institution that definitely reports 500 different training programs to the state. And then the second piece is once that information is there, we also need to bring that back with all of the information from the National Credential Registry for any of those certifications or licenses that our training programs indicate those students can then test for, and bring that back to truly create a Michigan credential database that we can use across our systems. Some of our next steps, we are finalizing the technology that I mentioned to do those uploads. That will be done this fall. Again, we're just like everyone else, these are hopeful goals. At this point, while I believe that we and our tech teams have been very focused on some unexpected tweaks to systems or new programs due to our coronavirus response, that was very necessary. Looking at their availability and our plan, we still will be able to do an upload for this fall. That will also accompany the outreach needed to those partners with information about the project, the process, and provide in-depth assistance to them to help publish what we upload for them. Those will both happen this fall. The data then will be pulled back within by the winter to create that database. And then we're going to be looking at the information that we've collected, both by what we submitted and in turn, everything that can be related to any of our programs within Michigan, to really start looking at within the winter into and following how we can use and best incorporate that data into our internal websites and systems.
So there's a few things I'd like all of you to keep in mind. Again, we want to thank you for joining this workshop and your interest in an update regarding Credential Engine. We have been on a 2-year journey, and it may seem like we have sort of been under the radar. There has been a lot of work that has gone into preparation for engaging multiple partners to provide the opportunity to build out Michigan's credential registry. And I want to take this moment to really thank Jeni. I mean, she's the brains behind this operation, and no bones about it. She is the brains. I am not a technical person, but she has really helped me understand really how this can be done. I always knew about the value of it, but didn't understand how we could get there. And so I want to thank her. And she's worked with Nicole, and she's worked with Renee. When Christine was with us, we were approaching this for the last 2 years. Our original agreement with Credential Engine was a 2-year agreement, and we actually just received an extension because of they've been very pleased with what we have accomplished over the 2 years. So when this technology is really completed, we are going to begin our outreach beyond state government. And we have worked with so many state government departments and have tested really the protocol that we have set up to really make it as easy as possible for partners to provide their credential information and for us to upload it into the registry. So once that technology is up and available, we will be reaching out to, there's many other partners that we can now engage beyond state government. And, you know, if I have any state government partners on, thank you for working with us and sort of serving as our guinea pigs for all of, you know, sort of getting all the glitches. But, you know, there's almost 1,100 apprenticeship sponsors. We talked about those embedded credentials, and we've been working very closely with the Office of Apprenticeship through the U.S. Department of Labor, State Director Russ Davis, and the trades and the unions of really identifying those credentials, and we appreciate that work. We have preliminarily talked to the community colleges, as well as to the Association for the Public Universities, and they're really waiting for us to come back. And when we're ready to really start those uploads into Credential Engine. We have been working very closely with MDE when we're ready to capture all those credentials that are offered through the CTE programs and beyond. So as we are starting to do this research, you know, I don't know all of your roles, but you may either serve in those roles, or you may have partners that might say, hey, someone has reached out to me about Credential Engine. We're hoping today that you'll be prepared to talk about, yeah, I know what that is, and here's why we should participate. One of the things that we're going to do, once we have a great deal of information that is in the Michigan Credential Registry, is we've partnered with Department of Technology Management and Budget, Labor Market Information and Strategic Initiatives to conduct an employer survey. And we will be asking those employers, and we've had employers to say, you know, how can we help you with this? So this is how they can help to really verify the information that is collected on credentials, the value of that credential, but to also identify any gaps that may exist. What have we missed? So while we have thousands of credentials that we sort of have in our line of sight, there may be some that we have missed. So there will be an employer survey that goes out. And again, employers may reach out and says, oh, I got this employer survey. It's talking about, you know, credentials, and can you help me with that? And then certainly the end game, and it's the focal point of this slide, is really about the enhancement to the systems that we're already using, and how that will benefit you in your everyday work, and you know, maybe as a referral for individuals that you are assisting to try to find that in-demand, well-paying career or job opportunity. So those are some things that we want you to keep in mind. Our next steps are sort of going to drive us here. So with that, Jeni and I would like to open it up for questions. We have about 7 minutes left, and Christine, I don't know if we have a lot of questions, but you offered to read those for us, and we appreciate it. Oh, we might have lost Christine. I don't see her on here.
Let me go through the questions.
Yeah. Okay.
I had noticed a few.
Oh, here she's coming back. Uh-oh.
Sorry, it took me a second to rejoin. We did have a question from Susan. Will the Credential Engine keep stats on the number of people with credentials?
That refers back to the slide where they talk about not having any personally identifiable information. Their registry is sourced by the actual issuers of credentials, and those organizations then put details about their program and certifications only. So this is a non-individual level website specifically designed for that. And then again, it's open source, available for any public organization to then connect with it and take that information. And then that could be done within work by a government or an agency for your own assessments. They don't want any of that information. So that's good in that, and being able to do outreach to our partners to let them know that there's nothing about their credentialees to be expected to report. It's just keeping up to date on the actual credentials and what a holder of those credentials, what that means, what they know, what that certifies them.
Jeni, I agree with that. And I am hoping that what this will do, though, is for those individuals that hold the credentials, they'll be more cognizant of the value of those credentials. And even if they are literally promoting themselves for occupations, will understand, how to relate and tout their credentials as they look for job opportunities. And oftentimes, we may have some credentials of value that we take for granted, and we only talk about maybe degrees that we have, but hopefully this work will help with some of that as well.
We also have a question from George. I don't know if there's supposed to be an S at the end. He asks, what about certifications and credentials for those returning from military service that may not be recognized by an employer or have to retake a course to get a license? Will military credentials be analyzed?
So one of the things I like about Credential Engine is while we presented our sort of 3 business cases, or we're really focusing on scope of work, this work really cuts across many, many different efforts. And so certainly there is a need to make sure that we have good analysis about the competencies that are gained towards military service and the credentials that come out. And so while our work did not specifically focus on the military, we are always prioritizing veterans and veterans opportunities, particularly in our apprenticeship. I can say that just what you're talking about are things that we're looking to do to help make better connections for veterans. So this work certainly can inform and support that. And Jeni, I didn't know if you had anything else.
Georges, I wanted to reference that it was anything that was issued by a state agency. I remember working with Nicole, specifically with Lara, and the detailing of their information. And Lara, I know, does a really good job of having military transfers. So I don't want to speak for them, but I remember seeing it addressed of, substitutions allowed when it's military service. So again, I think this illustrates, your question illustrates exactly the need for increased credential transparency, because just the question is, are we talking about a CDL driver, and that's Department of State? Are you talking about, within the nursing department, or is it something that would be licensed by a public organization, and maybe they need transparency between, the understanding of knowing what that military training compares to. And so I know that there's military offerings, and that the national work that Credential Engine is doing, all of our state partners are focusing on what is within our borders and making sure that we can enlarge the national database with what's within our states. But their efforts are really larger than that, as far as working with federal level or national organizations as well. And I know that there's been a focus with the military. So we can definitely connect later and look and see how that has interwoven. But I know that is, they work intensely with Department of Labor from Credential Engine and
Defense.
Yep. Yep.
and defense. Yep.
I can't speak specifically, but that's my generic reply to that one.
I don't see any other questions in the chat. Does anyone else have a question they'd like to ask? All right. If you do have a question, Marcia and Jenny's contact information will be available on this PowerPoint on the Michigan Works Association website after the conference. And it's now up on the PowerPoint screen if you have time to jot it down. This ends our presentation for today. I would like to thank our presenters. We really appreciate everyone's time. We hope you have great takeaways and will have enjoyed this feature of this conference. Our exhibitor and networking break is next, so please take time after this session to video chat with our exhibitors or watch one of their informational videos, or go to the networking tab to be randomly paired with another attendee for 2 minutes to meet your new coworkers across the state. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.